I just wanted to come on here early and say, see, my bangs do look good. I know that they're going to look insane when I'm running, but I don't want to wear a hat, so they're gonna fly when I run, but just so everyone knows, they do look good. I'm having a good hair day. See, my bangs are already messed up. Hi, and welcome back to Running Rants with Helen. As always, I'm Helen, and this is where I rant and talk about whatever I want. And today, I wanted to talk about just kind of the differences between being a professional trail runner and then being a running influencer. And I feel like sometimes there's a bit of crossover, but I also think that they are very separate jobs. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that just because I've been thinking about it a decent amount. Kind of what brought it up for me was I was at the Hoga Athlete Summit up in Portland, and they did a little presentation on social media, and they had a running influencer come to talk to us just I guess about social media and to give us some tips. If I'm being very honest, that whole presentation really pissed me off just because I think it would have been more valuable to find a professional athlete who you think does a really good job at social media and then have them talk to us and give us pointers rather than it be someone who that's their full-time job, just because then I'm sure they train too, but performance isn't really your main job. And generally I think with the presentation, I think in my group specifically was a little frustrating just because they went over on time and used that whole time to just talk about themselves, which I guess is kind of what I do here. But I'll just say this is my platform and I'm not giving a presentation, and I'm sorry, I don't care how you became vegan. So it started me thinking what are the differences? What are some of the things that are the same? I mean, at the end of the day, my contract is performance-based, and if I do not run good, they say au revoir, which is fine because that is what I am paid to do. And I think that's reflected in the way that my contract is written. My media obligations are so minimal, but at the same time, with having those super minimal obligations, I don't think that means that I should necessarily do the bare minimum. I think honestly it's kind of set up that way in my contract so that I'm able to do things that feel authentic and good for me. I'm never going to be the professional athlete who is posting on Instagram being and you should buy this shoe and you should do this, because that's just not authentic to who I am. And if that works for you, that's great. But also, side note, if you ever see me doing that, just know I had to have been paid $1 million. So there is that. But I think also brands have realized that marketing doesn't work super well if people think that they're just being advertised to all the time. Ooh, that one got me in the nog. And so yeah, like I said, with that room, I feel I'm able to use social media and even YouTube in a way that feels authentic to me and doesn't feel fake. Yeah, I just thought it was a very weird choice to have a running influencer be and this is how you should social media, because that might be their full-time job, but that's none of our full-time jobs. And this isn't to hate on running influencers as a whole at all. I think that they play a very important role, and maybe I would have more social media obligations if they didn't exist. So sometimes I feel if that's what a brand wants, then maybe don't have your pro athletes do it, like hire an influencer to do it, because I think we just like play different roles within sports marketing. And I think sometimes running influencers like can be a little bit more relatable, and like maybe be able to like reach a wider audience. More of my sports marketing role is like to win races and wear shoes while I win those races, and that kind of fulfills my job description for the most part. I don't know, I think that it's fine that there are those two different groups. I think sometimes there's crossover. Like I know pro athletes that also like kind of fit the influencer role, but like they're for sure professional athletes in their own right and have like a million different like results to back it up. An example, Grayson, like I don't know if Lagoon Sleep necessarily sponsors her because of her running accomplishments, or if it's more like because of her social media presence, but at the same time, Grayson is obviously like not just a running influencer. And I think like Ali Ostrander too, like kind of fits both in the way that she does like brand deals, and then is also sponsored as a professional athlete. Sometimes I feel like that line also kind of gets blurred, because there are definitely some running influencers that I feel like try to portray themselves as professional athletes, and that's just like not really the case. And I feel like sometimes, like, unless you're in it, like how would you know? Sometimes brands like do put that pressure for like social media on like their pro athletes, and sometimes I think a lot of us aren't that good at it. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily think I would be here filming YouTube videos if my boyfriend wasn't a professional videographer / photographer. And I think especially like when it's somewhat expected from a brand, but then also they don't give you the resources to help support it, like, I don't know, I think that gets tricky too, because I think in a way, like, I don't know, I think I found a pretty good balance, but as you guys can tell most of the time from my editing, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. Like, I'll just do this on part of an easy run. And I think some of the things that brands occasionally ask for, like, can start to take away from training, which then takes away from the whole point of like your job. I think that both professional runners and running influencers should both exist. I think that they both serve different purposes for brand marketing. I think it just starts to get tricky when either brands start to like try to merge those two things, because I don't see it as being the same. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're all just out here having a good time. But maybe just don't be a dick.
Anything else?
No, nothing else. I think that's where I'll end it. Yeah, maybe I'm just a hater at heart.
I'm gonna play a devil's advocate here. I know you love when I do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I am a big shoe brand and I'm sponsoring people or putting out budget to sell product, what value does a pro athlete have that an influencer doesn't if they're not producing content?
So I think that those two groups just cater to different demographics within the market of trail running. Yeah, I think sometimes people who are like closer to the front like are influenced by the people who are winning, and maybe potentially by like what they're wearing and what they're doing. And so I just don't think influencers like provide that same draw to that demographic. I don't really understand the whole thing behind it, but I'm guessing if Hoka thinks that like my return on investment is X amount, they're probably not paying me as much as they think that they're getting from me. And I don't have a huge social media presence like at all. And so I think that they're thinking that that return on investment is coming from my performances and races. But I think like social media can be an added thing on top of that. I think that it maybe makes you like, I don't know, a little bit more desirable to a brand because it does get like more eyes on the product. Like obviously I want to think that Hoka pays me because they're like, ooh, she's good at running, but they obviously like have to see some sort of marketing return. Also, then like I wouldn't be under the umbrella of sports marketing if my purpose as a pro athlete, for better or for worse, like was to not sell shoes.
From behind the scenes, I've seen that there's been really no pressure from your sponsors to create content on YouTube, but you're doing it anyways. So I guess why are you doing YouTube, and like why do we see a lot of other high level trail runners starting to create YouTube channels and create more content?
Well, first of all, I found it really fun. I feel like I've learned a lot about like editing videos and making little thumbnails, and it's just been fun because like I honestly do have the time to do it. And kind of like I said, if you weren't here, I don't know that I would like find someone to film with the equipment and the microphones and all of that. And so yeah, I also think that at the end of the day, like I would like to be in the sport for as long as I possibly can, and if it does, or for as long as I want to. But if it does add value to me as an athlete and I have the time and I want to do it, big key that want to do it, then like I don't really see a negative side to it. Plus then on top of that, I don't know, I think it creates a little bit more of an authentic connection in this parasocial relationship between me and the internet people. You know, like I think people already have gotten to know me a little bit better than just reading through my Instagram posts, because as much as like I think I'm honest and real on there, it's just different than me talking and being able to share all my little brain thoughts as they go in, instead of like typing it out and maybe it doesn't come across, you know?
You talked about sort of at the end of the day, you serve a different demographic as a marketing tool than an influencer that's selling the same products.
I think so.
How much of that do you think is truly the case, and how much do you think of it is an ego thing and feeling like discounted by someone portraying themselves as an athlete at your level when they're maybe not, but they have a bigger following?
Yes, I mean, I do think ego plays a role in it, and me like wanting to stomp my foot down and be like, no, I'm good at running. Because shout out Brad, we were at yoga and he was telling people to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and he was telling one of the other guys in my class, and this guy goes, oh, like, so you're trying to be a running influencer? And I did get kind of defensive. I was like, no, I'm not trying to be a running influencer. I'm a professional runner. But like, who cares? I said in the last video, like literally, who cares if you're good at running? So that like definitely is my ego being like, no, they pay me because I'm good. They don't pay me because I make little videos. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're all getting paid. We're all jogging. So, like always, take this with a grain of salt. I just was thinking about it and had some thoughts. And if your panties are in a bunch about it, maybe think about that. Yeah, I guess like one thing that I also wanted to add, which is not related to this topic at all, but I feel like I heard it on the Single Track podcast about just like talking about rivalries and how there's not enough beef in trail running. And I just wanted to say, I've been over here starting beef, maybe not with other professional trail runners, but there's this woman, shout out Sarah, I don't know her. I don't think I've ever met her, but she lives in Truckee. And sometimes I get little emails that say, you've been dethroned. And personally, I don't really like getting those emails, especially when it's like consistently from the same person. So I decided to fight back, and I planned a route through, I'm guessing, the neighborhood she lives in, and I found, I think, 11 segments. Yeah, I think 11 of them were hers out of the 13. And I used those 11 segments to create a workout, and my only goal was to steal the crowns. And it was actually really hard because Koros, you could put the little segments on there. I said I didn't remember where they were or how long they were. And so my watch would beep, and then it was just like sprint. And then I didn't know when the next one was or like how much rest I would get. So I feel like it made it super fun. But yeah, I hope Sarah has a sense of humor, because that's a little dramatic of me, but I think it's funny. I hope she fights back. I hope she goes and like doesn't even run between the segments and just like sprints each one, because I feel like that would be funny. So I just want to say I am starting rivalries and beef within the sport. It's probably just people who don't know that they're a part of it. This has been another episode of Running Rants with Helen. Drop in the comments below if you think I'm a professional athlete or a running influencer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.